Hey, everybody, and welcome to another edition of. And I see I misspelled everybody, but this is supposed to be Everybody Wants England. I may have to go back in there and edit that, or people are going to say, "What in the heck?" Um, but let's see who we got in here. Hey, Batman. Hey, Chris. Um, Chris, you say you'll be available tomorrow. Well, um, if you're talking about the Seductive Poison Triple Threat Review show, that'll be Thursday. Um, I hope that doesn't conflict with your schedule. Um, hey, Blissful. You say again, words are hard. Well, evidently my spellings went into the toilet because I can't even spell everybody today. Yeah, everybody. That's right. um, but I just before I get another Chris on here, Chris, aka Crater, Candace's Chris. Before I get him on here, I did want to let you guys know that Steve got me a rip of StarQuest 2, and evidently this rip he got didn't have the ending of the dang movie on there. So I did not get to see the full end of it, but I must say, just right off the bat, you're not really missing anything except Robert Englund was enjoyable in it. I liked his part, but I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to it. Chris, you say if I'm working Thursday, we'll be off about 6 p.m. PST. You may have to remind me what that is on Eastern time, Chris, because oh man, you ought to see me at work. We've got smile doctors clinics all over, and sometimes they'll be on mountain time or whatever. And I'm like, okay, so what time do I need to call them to do this? Um, but anyway, I'm going to go ahead and add Chris on here. Hey, Chris.
Hey Dana, how's it going?
Good. So, did you get to watch any of the other movies, or have you seen any of the other movies?
So I've never seen Star Quest 2. I did watch Killer Tongue probably several years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen Paper Brigade a lot since I was a kid when it came out. I think 96 when it came out. So I was about 10 years old when that came out, but I've seen it many times growing up. And but yeah, I can talk about Killer Tongue and Paper Brigade, but I'll be lost on Star Quest 2.
Well, I was lost when I got to I was like, "Oh, I think I'm gonna make it," because I just thought it was a really short movie, like some of those things are. And then I was like, well, what happened here?" It just like it
Yeah, you,
just
you
ended.
you never know because Paper Brigade it's a pretty short movie. It's just like an hour and 15 minutes long. Paper Brigade is.
Actually, there were 2 versions that I saw on YouTube, and there
Yeah,
was an
there's an uncut version too. Yeah.
and I watched it, so I guess I got a little bit. I don't know if I got more Robert Englund, but I got a little bit more movie.
I, s- I started to watch that one myself again when because I watched it earlier, and I was like, well, I've never seen the uncut version before, so I said, I don't know if Dana's watching that one, or I said I'll just watch the version that I know.
Mhm.
So
But that's okay. I don't think we're going to be that off from
right,
the gist of the whole movie
yeah, I
itself.
think there's just about 10 minutes difference in the uncut and the regular version.
Hmm. Yeah, that's about what I'm figuring too. So, I guess we'll go ahead and get started with Killer Tongue.
Yeah,
Well, what can I say about this? Like, I'll just be totally honest. This this type of movie is not my cup of tea. Star Quest 2 wasn't my cup of tea either. But we'll talk about that one in a little bit. Um, I was telling Steve earlier, I was like, I see why you guys like this. Melinda Clark's on here. Like, and he said, well, yeah. And I was like, well, I'm not lesbian. I'm not a guy. So Melinda Clark, whether she shows her body or not, didn't do me any good. And I would, that wasn't, what I was watching it for. But the movie's not that great. I mean, it's like
That's putting it lightly.
to be nice, but uh, I could tell you what kind of things I was saying as I was watching. I was like, what in the heck? And like the best thing about this movie was Robert Englund. I kid you not, he was the best thing about this movie. Not Melinda Clark, not not that talking tongue that comes out of her mouth. Is like, what? It sort of reminded me, even though I like the movie Brain Damage a lot better, but the tongue kind of reminded me of Elmer, that little creature that
Yeah, from brain damage. Yeah,
yeah, that attaches itself to the base of that guy's brain and like gives him these drug induced uh like hallucination type of things, but he's gotta kill people and let Elmer eat them before he'll keep doing that. But that's another movie for another
yeah.
day. But
But speaking of drug inducing, I mean, this movie, I mean, it's like the creators of this film were drug induced when they made this because
something was up.
um, there is so much going on in this. I mean, it's the movie starts off, and if I don't want to spoil anything. There really is not. There's not a whole lot to spoil because the title of the movie kind of speaks for itself.
Right.
But you got a few known names in it from the horror genre. You got Melinda Clark, Robert Englund, Doug Bradley's in this.
Yeah, Doug Bradley.
And there's kind of an interesting ending at the end with like Doug Bradley and Robert Englund. And I don't want to spoil that, so in case anybody does want to watch this, but like
Yeah,
I
in case you haven't seen Killer Tongue and you want to watch this masterpiece.
but
But I gotta ask Chris about this. Doesn't Robert Englund have the most incredible hairpiece in this movie that you've ever seen?
it's like I said, everything about this is interesting to say the least about it. Um, Everything from the costumes, the effects, to the story, to the transformation that Melinda Clark goes through when like the meteor or the asteroid or whatever it is that lands into her soup, and
Yeah,
then as soon as she takes a bite, it's just like it's an acid trip. I mean, if you
yeah.
were on drugs and watching this film, you would have a very interesting trip, I'm sure.
I'd be afraid you'd lose your mind if you were on drugs and you sat down to watch this. Like if you were on LSD or PCP or shrooms or something like that, I would think you would just lose your mind.
Right. And like those names that I mentioned, those that was really the only reason I watched this movie because I knew Melinda Clark from Return of the Living Dead 3. I knew Robert Englund from, everything I know him from, Doug Bradley, Hellraiser, Nightbreed, whatever. All he's in, and I was like, well, I love all three of those people. So I was like, yeah, I'll check this out. But this was probably about 4 or 5 years ago when I first watched this. And I was like, what is this? And it just really like, I mean, I don't know. I really don't know what to say about it, Dana.
Well,
Because
not only do you have all the stuff we've already mentioned, but you have a group of cross dressers, I guess, or drag queens. I don't know what you would call them, but
well, there's like, the beginning of the film kind of gives you like a natural born killers vibe.
hmm
Then it like goes in like, oh well, she's Melinda Clark's character is like getting away from that. She's gonna become a nun, and then she like stops being a nun, and she just goes and lives with her dogs, and
uh
and and then there's just this whole story going throughout the movie with these like group of nuns who are
Well,
like, I
they
guess,
run a gas station, don't they?
yeah, I guess that's what it would be. But it's like I said, the practical effects though in this are kind of they're pretty good. The
Yeah,
practical
the
effects are.
effects are good, yeah.
And I admire that they went with that. And it seems like you were comparing this like the effects and everything to like Brain Damage. I didn't look and see who did the effects on this movie, but
Yeah,
they're very similar to that Gabe Bertalos, or I think I'm not sure how you pronounce his last name. I probably butchered that,
no,
but
I think that's pretty good.
he worked on a lot of stuff with like Frank Henenlotter's films. So
I mean, the idea of it is just so out there
mhm.
anyway. But then when you add a character like Robert Englund, who by the end of it is like he's shirtless and somebody is taking either he's taken or somebody else has taken lipstick and drew circles around his boobs and he's running around and he's got something on his head, not a hairpiece, but it looks like you remember when you would see old ladies or something on those old sitcoms and it would look like they had paper towels coming out of their hair or something like that. He looked like that at one point in the movie.
Well, you know what? Like, I don't know why it made me think of this, but when I initially saw that film and I saw the way Robert Englund looks at the end, I don't know why, but like it immediately popped in my head. Um, D. Snyder's Captain Howdy from Strangeland.
Ah, yeah.
But I don't know why. I mean, they don't really look anything alike or anything like that. But I don't know. My mind is weird sometimes. So
And Robert Englund his character never settled on one personality type
no, no. Mm,
because he started out and he was real kind of mean.
mhm.
And then there was the part with the bird, and he put the bird in his hairpiece, and he was like, "Now you never have to leave your nest." And then sometimes he's mean to the bird, and I think at one point he ends up shooting the bird, and these feathers go everywhere. Um, but it, and then by the end of it, he's just like batshit crazy, just going every which way. And I like that though. It was very enjoyable. That's why I say Robert Englund for me was the best thing about the film. I liked that Doug Bradley was in it,
Mhm.
but I think Robert Englund's character just had more of an expansive personality.
Well, that I think that's just how naturally Robert Englund is. Like his whole like being of this spews out like a vibrant personality, no matter what character he's playing in a
Yeah.
film. I mean, you definitely see like he puts it all into like when he's playing as Freddy or just anything you really see him. Like I said, he's just really putting every bit of like personality spewing out of him. Like it's like, oh, this, and he makes himself likable to the audience in
Yeah.
one way or another. And I've seen reviews, I've read reviews of this in the past, and I see a lot of people like saying, well, Robert Englund is the villain in this. I'm like, but
Mm,
is he really?
no.
Because I mean, I think it's just I don't think anybody in this is really the hero, or unless you maybe the nuns, but you could look at them as being like
I
a
guess
hero.
Melinda Clark once she gets transformed, but how much of that is her and how much is
Exactly.
tongue?
It's like so you can't really call her the hero in this
Mm,
because
no.
it's I don't know how you can really compare this to anything else that's ever been made because I hate saying this about films, but this is probably one of the worst movies I've ever watched.
Well, wait till I talk about what I saw of StarQuest 2. It didn't get good reviews on IMDb. I think it got like a 2.5 or something like
Mm.
that. Um, but yeah, this movie is, really the only reason, unless you've got a thing for Melinda Clark or something like that, I would say if you wanted to see Doug Bradley and you wanted to see Robert Englund, um, then yeah, I'd say, give this one a watch. But other than that, if you're not a huge fan of Robert Englund, if you're not a huge fan of Doug Bradley, um, or you don't have a thing for Melinda Clark, I can't see anybody watching this movie actually.
Yeah. Melinda Clark, I mean, I like her. To me, she's a very attractive woman. And, but in this, I mean, I don't know. I didn't really like her look in this. I mean, I thought she looked really nice before the transformation, but
Right.
like, I don't know, like I hate to sound mean, but her like character after the transformation throughout the rest of the film just looked really slimy and greasy to
And
me.
didn't she look like it during the whole movie once she transformed the whole rest of the movie? It looked like she was, and it was probably because she was holding some kind of prosthetic in her mouth.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's what it was.
It looked very uncomfortable, and it
Yeah,
was
but
like she was getting ready to throw up all the time because she looked
like
like that.
I don't know what it was though, but like because I would prefer seeing her as like the zombie Julie from Return of the Living Dead 3 than what her look in Killer Tongue. And like I said, her and Robert Englund, Doug Bradley, seeing that they were part of that was the only reason I ever watched this to begin with. And I've only watched it that one time, that was several years ago. I don't plan on, unless somebody puts a gun in my head, watching it again.
Yeah, well, you got a pretty good memory of it because I mean, I just watched it today,
Hmm.
and
Well,
so
I mean, even though I didn't much like it, it's pretty memorable, Dave.
yeah, you don't. Killer Tongue's a movie that you don't forget.
Yeah,
Uh, maybe after 20 years, you might forget a
well,
little.
maybe, yeah. I mean, you start getting Alzheimer's or something, you just forget everything.
Yeah, somebody come up to you. You remember that Killer Tongue movie?
Huh?
No, I
No?
don't. I don't remember that.
What are you
Oh,
talking about? Like, it's like, here, I'll show you. But just like trauma all over again. No,
yeah.
no, I don't. I'm playing it. it I, I, I'm telling the truth though when I say that it's one of the worst movies I've ever seen, but it's far from the very worst.
Hmm.
Now, to me, the very worst movie I've ever seen is Birdemic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I remember when you guys watched that with me and Steve that time.
it
Oh wow.
it was something.
Yeah, if you haven't seen Birdemic, you gotta watch it just for the sheer audacity that somebody would make something like
Yeah,
that.
top notch effects.
Can you hear the sarcasm in that, guys? So I guess, Chris, do you have anything else you wanted to bring up about Killer Tongue before we give it
Um,
our rating?
Not really. I think
Okay.
that's all that's been said is what needs to be said.
So yeah, I'm gonna have to hold on here. I'm gonna have to give this, and I'm being generous with this because of Robert England. I'm gonna have to
Mm,
give it two deadites out of five. And I'm just gonna be totally honest here. Those two deadites, they're for Robert England. I ain't even gonna lie. I ain't even gonna lie about it. Um, but so Chris, what do you rate this one?
Well, I'm going to be generous and give it a 1 because if it didn't have Robert Englund, Doug Bradley, Melinda Clark in it, you wouldn't even get that. I don't think.
Okay,
For me, at least.
I think that's fair. Now there might be some people that watch this later and say, "What in the heck? They didn't give this masterpiece a five or something like that."
Yeah,
There,
just watch
there'll be
it.
people like that.
it'll get cult status here in the next year, and then they'll be selling all the Killer Tongue shirts on Fright Rags, and
For they'll probably be $40 then.
get a $100 box set from Scream Factory on Killer Tongue. Didn't they already did think Scream Factory or one of those like boutique companies put out Killer Tongue?
Oh, they probably did. I
It
don't
seems
know.
like I remember seeing it. I'm like, oh my god, they released that movie.
But Blair's in here. Hey, Blair. And Chris C says, I wish I would have gotten into horror more sooner. Would have been great to go to some earlier conventions. Yeah, I even think that I was delayed and like I was into horror, but as far as going to conventions, I've been in
Mhm.
horror into horror pretty much all my life.
Yeah, me too.
Seems
Like
like
I started getting hardcore into it when I was about 9 or 10 years old. I was so around 95, 96 is when I started I think the thing that really like pushed the envelope and made me get super into it was Monster Vision with Joe Bob. When
yeah,
that came on TNT in around 95, 96, and because I that was like the first message board or whatever you want to call it that I'd ever been a part of.
yeah.
When they
So
had
you
like
went into Joe Bob's Rec Room?
yeah,
I did
I
too.
was very young, but I mean, like,
Uh, Well, stuff probably wasn't as bad then as it is now on things. I think
yeah,
that was probably pretty tame. You were probably in there some of the time when I was on there, but we
very
know
possible.
each other.
But yeah, the thing with the conventions and though, Chris, is yeah, I didn't get into that till like 2009 was my first convention I went to. So that's been 15 years ago. They were definitely more laid back during that time still. I mean, conventions have been around probably since like the 80s as far as horror conventions. I think probably Fangoria Weekend of Horrors might have been the
Yeah,
first ones. But yeah, even back in 2009, they were still pretty laid back and relatively cheap and stuff on prices if you're meeting people. It's kind of a different world now.
unfortunately. Oh my goodness, Blair, what, hun, what are you doing in here? I appreciate the support, but you guys are under a tornado warning and you're in here on the stream.
Oh
I'd
my
be undercover. I'd be saying, "I'm sorry, guys and gals. I know you want to hear about Robert England, but there might be tornadoes out there."
Be
Um,
safe, be careful.
yeah, and duck and cover. You can always crawl out of your safe place and watch this on the replay. You don't have to be on here right now. Um, let's see. Chris C says, "Me too, Blair. Definitely Friday 13th and later stuff like Hellraiser." Because Blair said, "Thanks, Chris. My love for horror started with the Friday the 13th marathons on USA." Um, hey,
I remember those. I remember watching the Friday the 13th marathon when almost every Friday the 13th, like when the actual date Friday the 13th, they would show those marathons, and then I grew up on like the Nightmare on Elm Street marathons and the Halloween marathons, and
oh
that's something they still do to this day. But when you mentioned Friday the 13th marathons, and go back to I was talking about Monster Vision, that was really the big thing that got me. I remember like when Joe Bob did a Friday the 13th like marathon on Monster Vision, and
yeah,
all throughout the show, it's like he thinks like someone's like watching him and is following him and stuff like that.
yeah. He went to the bathroom and somebody had like a jelly donut or something on the. Yeah, I think me and or I think I have an actual from the Lost Drive-In Patreon. Darcy sent out a Blu-ray. She sends out Blu-rays
Mhm.
periodically, and I think I've got the Friday 13th, like the inserts in there. I mean, the
Oh,
movies
okay.
aren't on there.
Yeah, I don't have that, but yeah, I know that they do have all of the pretty much all the Monster Visions uploaded on the Patreon and all that.
And Candace is in here under the cover of Death by Stereo podcast. She says, "Hey guys, been watching, but just now getting to comment."
Yeah, she was actually working on a lot of that for the channel today. She just, and I think she may have uploaded it to the channel for the intro for the new series that we are doing called Terror Vision,
Yep.
where it's just TV series reviews. And the first series we're going to be covering is the Munsters. So if you're a Munsters fan, be sure to check that out.
Yeah, and Blissful, bless her heart, Blissful support to everybody. She supports me, she supports you guys, she supports Chris C. Just everybody that's doing something, Blissful will support you unless you act like a jerk, and then naturally she won't. But if you're a
Well,
good
I mean, I
person,
can't blame her there. I mean, if you're a jerk to me, then you're done. I ain't got nothing for you.
that's right. Now Candace is back on her regular account. At first, I was like, and I know the Death by Stereo is something you guys are doing, and I was like, Death by Stereo. Oh, that's Candace. It just took me like the later it gets in the evening, the worse my brain is.
Yeah, and everybody go if you're not already subscribed to Chris C, the slasher dude, go subscribe to him. He puts out some really good content too. I know he does some watch along sometimes too with I think Goraphobe he does sometimes. And he's really good stuff. So everybody go subscribe to him if you haven't already.
Um, so I guess we'll move on to the second one, which is the Paper Brigade. And honestly, I had never seen this movie before, but I just want to tell you guys, yeah, it's a Disney type of film. Didn't Disney put it out, Chris?
I'm not really 100% on that. I always thought they did. I know it's a TV movie. It's
Mhm.
nothing that was ever released in theaters or anything like
Right.
that. Like I said, the original cut of it is a very short film. It's just like an hour and 15 minutes. Um, there's not really any kind of like star power in this other than Robert Englund. Now, the main kid in this, I think his name is like Kevin Howard or something like that. Um, I only know him from two things really: this and House Arrest. Where
Right.
and
Yeah.
he has really strange names in both films that start with a G. In this one, his name is Gunther, and
Gun.
his name in House Arrest is Grover.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I remember when I met Jamie Lee Curtis at that horror hound back in 2012. When I went up to talk with her, that was one of the movies that I brought up to her. I told her that's probably one of my favorite movies that she's in outside the horror genre. And I love House Arrest, and like she was like, "Oh my god, what's wrong with you?" She said, "So what was that kid's name anyway? Grover? Who names their kid Grover?" And but I loved having that interaction with her. It was so
Yeah.
cool, memorable.
Batman says, okay, he says Kyle Howard.
Kyle Howard. Okay.
He's also in Baby Geniuses as well. So I
I
guess
don't remember that but I haven't seen Baby Geniuses since it came out in like 99 or whatever it was. Uh,
But this movie was definitely right up my alley. And there's Candace. I'm going to go ahead and add Candace so she can talk about this stuff with us. Hey, Candace.
Hey
Candace
guys.
is, Candace is in her car, I think.
yeah, she's in the car.
I hope I'm not giving too much feedback. Last time that I did this, Chris said that it was giving feedback from my phone.
Oh, you mean like an echo? Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't hear anything right now.
Okay. I'll probably
Yeah,
just do
no,
a
I know.
drive by because I am losing daylight here. I'm at my mom's, so and there's really nowhere quiet maybe to go in there. So I come out to my car, but I did want to hop on here for the Paper Brigade.
Yes.
So, and I didn't think y'all was going to be talking about right now, so I had to run out. And I said I gotta run out there now. But yeah, you go ahead and talk about what you was talking about, Chris. If I cut you off.
Oh no! I pretty much finished what I was saying. Like I said, just that interaction I had with Jamie Lee Curtis and everything when I met her talking about the movie House Arrest, which that Kyle Howard is also in.
Yeah.
But but yeah, I love this movie. I remember watching it when it first came out. Like I said, it was a TV movie. I can't remember where it first aired on. Like Dana
Disney.
said, it was possibly a Disney movie. I'm
Well,
not sure.
the version I watched, which was the uncut version, it said HBO and Disney.
Okay.
So that I believe it was Disney. This is one of my brother's favorite childhood movies. I tried to get him to come on here. He's not
Yeah.
went to work yet, but he wouldn't come on, but he absolutely loved and still loves this movie. I remember when we were kids, it was Disney, I'm pretty sure, where we first seen it on. And I remember when it first came on, I had no idea that Robert Englund was in it. We was just watching it, and then he comes on the screen and I'm like, that's Freddy Krueger. And I
Yeah.
remember my brother, he was like, that's not Freddy Krueger. I said, yes, it is. It's the guy that plays Freddy Krueger. But he was just real young, at the time. He just couldn't wrap his head around that. I guess that Freddy Krueger didn't look, or Robert Englund didn't look like Freddy Krueger.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that
But
was
no, he
my
was.
introduction to Robert Englund outside of the Freddy makeup. This was the
Yeah.
first film I'd ever watched, and seen Robert Englund that I was like, but I knew, but straight away, like when I started watching it, I seen the name Robert Englund in the opening credits. I knew that was Freddy Krueger. Uh,
Yeah.
but when I see him in the film, I'm like, is that Freddy? Is that Robert? Is that what Robert Englund looks like? Because this was before the internet. I couldn't go, I didn't have any like magazines or anything like that had his actual picture in it. So like, I had no idea what Robert Englund looked like until that
Yeah.
movie.
I saw Robert Englund's picture, like a young picture of him in a magazine. I don't know what magazine it was, but it was like there was an article on like the face of Freddy Krueger or something like that. And I was like, that's Robert Englund? That's Freddy Krueger? Because he just looked like, I don't know, he looked like your nice uncle that
Yeah.
you like to go hang out with.
And
That's what
and
I.
this was also before I had seen Freddy's Dead too, because and he's clearly shown in Freddy's Dead of what he looks like outside the makeup and everything. But I don't think I watched Freddy's Dead till probably like in the late '90s or early 2000s.
Now, I think my first introduction to Robert Englund was, like Diana was saying, like through magazines, because as long as I could remember being able to, because I always loved buying magazines. Back in the '90s, growing up, we didn't have, all this stuff that we have today that these kids have. So magazines were a huge thing, Mad Magazine, all that stuff that we get. But I would get like the Fangorias and all the like movie magic magazines, that had to do with horror and stuff like that, and just regular just movies. And I probably seen him in probably one of those magazines first, because I knew what he looked like outside the makeup before I seen um, New Nightmare.
Okay.
So that wasn't the first time that I had ever seen him outside the makeup. I remember that. I remember when I seen him, but that was the first time I actually had seen him on film, you know, outside the Freddy makeup. Well, it was the first time me really even watching him, as Freddy, because
Well,
I would
you,
hide my eyes.
you just remind me of something, Ken. Let me back up because I guess I lied. So I seen New Nightmare before this. So that
Oh,
New Nightmare would have been the first time I had seen Robert Englund
hmm,
out of the makeup. Okay,
yeah.
yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, but the
Yeah.
Paper Brigade, I'm pretty sure, about positive, that when we watched it on TV, it was on the Disney Channel. Pretty certain that it was.
Well, I seen
Um,
Super Batman Nerd says he first seen it on ABC Family. So yeah, that would be because Disney
Disney.
owns ABC.
Yeah,
Um, so I guess it would have been a Disney produced film then.
yeah, yeah. And we have it, and Dana, we will try to find you a copy of this and give it to you whenever,
Yeah,
because I know
I
Chris
think
has
I
it.
have a couple
Yeah, because
copies
I
of it.
absolutely loved it. Now, Steve would probably, this is cheesy, but I just fell in love with it just in the same way that you guys did
Yeah,
because it was just, I like these innocent little films. Sometimes you don't just have to watch horror. You don't just
Yeah.
have to watch sex comedies or whatever the thing is that you like to watch most of the time. Sometimes it's nice just to sit down and watch something that's a little bit more family
Yeah.
oriented. And I think what it does is it cleanses your movie watching palate to do this. I think
Yeah.
it's important to mix these kind of films in every once in a while. And I was like, I gotta go back and watch this again
Well,
because
I gotta ask you a question, Dana. There is a Nightmare on Elm Street reference in Paper Brigade. Did you catch it?
oh, put me on the spot there, Chris. Uh, I guess I
I don't
didn't
remember
catch
it
it.
either.
I guess I didn't catch it.
Okay, so it's very like just a brief second they show it. So in the movie when Gunther accepts to take the paper route as the replacement paper boy, on his first trip around the town delivering papers, there's a closed in, like a zoomed in shot of a set of steps, and on the steps it says 1438
Uh,
instead of 1428, which was the house number
yeah.
from Nightmare on Elm Street.
Huh. Well, I would have never
Sharp
I would have
eye
never known
there,
that.
Chris, because I missed it.
You know
And I always
something,
thought that was really neat.
this is something that has nothing to do with this movie, and sorry about talking about something that has nothing to do with this movie or Robert Englund, but
That's
Chris
okay.
reminded me of an Easter egg, and I I wonder if you love the Burbs, right, Dana? I know that you do. You're a big
Oh,
Burbs
yes.
fan too.
Mhm.
So, like, this was a movie that I absolutely watched a billion times. You know, it was a special movie for me and my grandpa to watch with one another. So I had seen the movie 1,000 times or more. I mean, really, honestly, I knew it backwards and forwards.
Mhm.
Um, and being a huge Lucy fan growing up, I always watched the Lucy show. And like Mr. Mooney. Do you know who Mr. Mooney is? The guy that
Oh,
would
yeah.
her
Uh-huh.
boss.
Uh-huh.
Well, he plays in the Burbs.
Oh, yeah, he does. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
he plays in the Burbs, and what's his name? Art. What's his name? The What's Mr. Mooney's character in the Burbs, Chris? Having a brain
Mm,
fog.
no, it's not Art because
You
Art
know, the one
is
goes missing.
yeah, I can't think of his name
Oh
Yeah.
my
either.
gosh.
Now
I know it. Well,
that's gonna bother me.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
he's the one that had the little miniature
yeah, the
poodle
little dog. Yeah.
Queenie. Why do I
Queenie. Yeah,
do this whenever I get on the spot in front of people? People's gonna think I'm stupid or something.
I do
Oh,
You
too.
know I
It's
know it.
yeah,
Well, anyway, you know who I'm talking about.
yeah.
The old guy that goes missing. They go into. Well, he played Mr. Mooney in the Lucy show, and
Okay.
so when they first break into his house,
Mhm.
Bruce Dern coming. He's got the glass in his hand. He says, "Soldier's way saves the day." They
Yeah.
go in. It shows a close up of the TV. It's like going in front of it, and there's a picture on top of the TV that's slightly turned towards the camera, and
Mhm.
it's of him and Lucy. And I
Oh,
yeah,
did not notice that until probably 10, 15 years ago. As many times as I had watched that film, I had never noticed that. But it's
yeah.
mhm.
That
clear as
character's name
day.
was Walter Seznich.
Walter, yeah.
Yeah, it's Walter.
Oh my lord, I know that better than I
I
know
should
my
be
own
able to
name.
remember that because there's that one scene with Tom Hanks and he's his friend Art
Yeah,
says,
Hmm.
"Ray, this is Walter."
yeah,
And
it's the bone. They find that femur or whatever. Yeah,
There's a line in the Burbs that Candace has to close her ears to every time
yeah.
it's
We'll
that
talk
Art
about that when we
says
talk
it.
about the Burbs.
Okay,
I think Dana probably knows the part that I have to close my ears on when they
uh,
go down into I guess in the
yeah,
basement or whatever, and they're
yeah.
talking and
but
stuff.
anybody
But
that's not seen the Piper Brigade.
Yeah.
And if you're curious of what Robert Englund's character is in this film, he only has, I think, about 3 different scenes in the
Yeah, he's
whole
not in it
movie.
very long.
Yeah.
No.
But if you see any kind of releases like the VHS,
Yeah.
DVD, he's always like featured on the cover because he's pretty much like the main person that you would know from this film because
Yeah.
the other actors in this aren't really well known or anything. But he plays Crazy Man Cooper, who is an old war veteran,
Who
and he's
uses
just
a
kind of
paintball gun to shoot people that comes on his
he likes gluing together little like military models,
Mhm.
collection of paintball guns, and
He's
he
just
has
ready
like a
for
whole
war every
flock of
time that he
bees
turns around.
out in a pen. And that's
Yeah.
when you first see him is like when the character Gunther is on his paper route, so he tries to take a shortcut through the area where Crazy Man Cooper lives. And so that's when Robert Englund, you see him for the first time. At first you just see him kind of peeping through like the shades inside his house, and then he bursts out and he just starts unloading on Gunther with a paintball gun.
Yeah.
And then he like pulls like this like lever and releases all these flock of geese that he has up in this pen. And he's like, release the cavalry, and it's crazy. I love it though.
Losing daylight, so I'm trying to get a little light before I get to
There, we
totally
can see Candace again.
No, but Robert Englund's character is so fun in this, I think.
It's very memorable, even though he's only in a handful of scenes.
Mhm.
It's just like I love that character. And when Gunther actually ends up shooting, it looks like he shoots him with mustard or
That's
something.
what I always thought it was mustard.
Yeah, that's what
And
it looks like.
he looks down on his sleeve. He says, "You got me. Nobody's ever shot me before." And so they had a mutual respect for each
Yeah.
other at that point, and it was just that that's a wonderful character to put in a movie.
Yeah.
And also it was a stroke of genius to cast Robert Englund in that because Robert Englund, I've said this before, I'll say it again, has such great range. He can
Yeah.
play the most evil characters like Freddy Krueger,
Mhm.
and he can turn around and be the sweetest guy in another film. That movie, The Fifth Floor, I was talking about, where he was in on the mental ward of a hospital. He was a very sweet character in that. He wasn't dangerous or anything. We're never really sure what his issues were, but I remember the first time I seen him, he had a Mickey Mouse shirt on in the movie, and it was typical young or younger Robert Englund playing that part. So I love watching him play all these different characters.
Yeah, and in this one particularly, like he's when you first introduced to him, like he is crazy, but I think that's just he's not his character in this is not like genuinely crazy. I think it's just that he's been secluded by himself for so long, and then the whole town is like, oh, they're scared of him, and so that's Crazy Man Cooper's house. Stay away from there.
Yeah.
But then, as the film goes on, and his relationship develops with Gunther, you can see like he just really wanted somebody to associate with him.
Yeah,
And
he was
they end up
lonely,
becoming
I think.
friends, and you feel sorry for him, you really do. And because that's all he wanted was just some people to socialize with him. And I love that.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm done. Go ahead.
It kind of reminds me of, different concept and all this stuff, but it kind of reminds me of that my gosh, they're going. You guys have to overlook me. My mind is
It's
going every
okay.
which way, but loose right now. Oh my gosh, I had it, and it just as soon as I started talking about it, it just went away. Maybe that's a sign I should go to sleep. The baseball movie.
Which Sandlot.
That my brother loves. Sandlot. Yes, the Sandlot.
Well, that's funny you mentioned.
Reminds me of.
It's funny you mentioned the Sandlot. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
James Earl Jones. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I can't hardly hear, Chris.
What I was saying was, it's funny you mentioned the Sandlot because the kid that played Squints in the Sandlot is also in this.
I
Yeah,
thought that was
yeah,
Squints.
he's in it, but it kind of reminds me of the relationship with James Earl Jones's character with the kids. You know, everybody was thinking
Yeah,
he was crazy, and just, you know, I guess he was just misunderstood, and they was scared of him. But whenever they, met him and realized, hey, there's more to him than what has been going around and what people's made of him and stuff. And it
yeah,
kind of
because
reminded me of that.
when they tell the story in the Sandlot, it's like, he's the meanest old man that ever lived.
Yeah.
But when they finally meet him, they know it's just all a legend. It's all like made up stories, pretty much. And then they find out all this other stuff about him, and how he knew Babe Ruth and all this. And,
Yeah.
sorry if anybody's not seen the movie and I spoiled that for you, but
Well, if you ain't seen Sandlot,
oh yeah, for real.
But no,
that's
it's
classic.
a fun movie.
Yeah, definitely a fun movie. If you've never seen it, like unfortunately I had never seen it. See, again, this is why I love doing these retrospectives on these different directors and these actors and actresses and stuff, because it gives me, not that I had to have an excuse, but it kind of forces me to take a really in-depth look at their filmography.
Yeah. And like we've said before in the past, Robert Englund has a ton of range when it comes to his characters. And, when you see a character, because I don't think he's ever played another character like he did in this Paper Brigade, but it's very, it's kind of eye opening to see, like, oh, wow, like he can about play anybody.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But he, go ahead, Dana. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was just gonna. I just wanted to make sure that everybody had their say on Paper Brigade before we gave a rating on it.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
But Chris, do you have any final thoughts on?
Yeah, I just wanted to, there's a few things that, like, I noticed, like like I said, Robert Englund is like the main star. Well, no, he's not the main character of this, but he is like the one of the probably the most well known name from the film. But rewatching it again here recently, I did notice there is another person in the cast though that does have ties to horror films. And it's one of the bullies in the film, and he goes by the name of Luke. And that the actor that plays him is Michael Stevenson, who played Joshua in Troll 2. And funny enough, just like in Troll 2, how they have all this like the green goo and stuff that goes on Joshua in Troll 2. There's a scene in this when they're trying to get the revenge on the bullies, and like he's trying to get up into that big tree fort, and he falls off, and they pull the ladder, and he falls, and then they dump all this like nasty goop stuff all over. And I love that, and there was something I was kind of curious about as well, because one of the main plot points of the film is that Gunther meets this girl when they move to that town, and he starts to like her, and he's trying to impress her and stuff. And he finds out that both of them like this band called Screaming Banshees. And so he's trying, that's the whole point of the movie. He's trying to like make money by taking this paper route so he can buy these tickets from one of the bullies in the film. And what I was curious about that was that the name Screaming Banshees, is that a horror reference as well to Night of the Creeps?
It could be.
You know the part I'm talking about, Night of the Creeps, when the janitor is like screaming like banshees.
Yeah.
I was kind of wondering that, I still don't know.
That's not a real band, is it?
I know of. I know there's a band called the Screaming Trees.
Screaming Trees, yeah, they're a grunge band. I think. I forget that guy's name that's the lead singer of that band, but I know there's a band. There's a band called the Banshees, right?
Yeah, well, there's Susie and
Oh,
the
Susie
Banshee.
Sue. Well, yeah, Susie Sue and the Banshees. So maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Maybe.
That's a cool band name though. If it's
Blissful, you say you found the Paper Brigade on YouTube. Yes, there are two versions on YouTube. There's the shorter version, and then there's the uncut version that I watched today, just because I wanted the full experience. I don't know, what was taken out or anything like that of the shorter version. Um, but I loved it, and I'll definitely be going back and
Yeah,
revisit.
I always
yeah,
have loved it. I mean, yeah, I mean, if you've never seen it before, I mean, I can understand how it would come off as cheesy,
yeah.
which it is cheesy. But
That's
for
what's
me, where
good.
I've seen it for since it first originally came out, I've just kind of had that nostalgia in the back of my
Yeah,
mind for it because I loved it, and because as we get older, our tastes always evolve with
yeah.
films or music or whatever.
Mhm.
But there's always going to be something that in the back of our mind of something that we loved as a kid. We're always part of us is always going to love that as we get older.
Now, when did that come out? 96?
96.
96.
Mhm.
Now, you said this was your first time watching it, Dana, right?
Right.
Right. So I'm glad you liked it. I knew that
But
once you
yeah,
seen it that you would love
I'm
it.
glad that you liked it for real.
Yeah.
Because I was telling myself, I said Dana's gonna love her that the character that he plays in this
Yeah.
because
And I
it's
did.
fun and
Mhm.
it kind of the Robert Englund that loves kids because he like I said if you are at a convention or something and you see him interact with children and kids and stuff like that, he just has a fun way about him
Yeah, he's
where
purely
he just
genuine.
connects. So his role in this film kind of, shows that side of him. He's fun and he don't care to, goof around and stuff. Which Freddie is, goofy in a lot of the films. So I like that side. I think that's why Robert England has so much charm. At least
And
for
I think
me,
so
that's a
too.
lot of his charm.
yeah, and
So
before I forget, real quick, when I rewatched this again here recently, there was something in it that Robert England says that reminded me of Dana. And it's in towards the ending of the movie during the final battle between the Paper Brigade and the bullies, and Robert England, his character's helping them out, and he says "skedaddle, skedaddle," and I know that's something that Dana always says. We're going to skedaddle on out of here,
Yeah,
and
I do.
that immediately
maybe Dana,
reminded me.
whenever you meet him and you get done meeting him, you say, "Well, Robert, I'm gonna skedaddle on out." I wonder if he would
Oh,
get the connection. Probably not.
I don't know. Maybe not after all these years, but maybe. I don't know. Uh, but yeah, I'm getting more and more excited about meeting in
Mhm.
September. Um, and I'm hoping that I'm hoping he catches me and Candace walking around the convention with our I Love Robert England shirts on. Steve probably
Maybe we can watch for him to leave his table or something, Dana, and kind of sneak around to where he can notice
sneaker.
us.
Well, I know that Candace has said this before, Dana, but really, like, when you do meet him, you have to mention this retrospective
Oh
that you've
yeah.
done. I think he would be the type of person that would truly appreciate that.
I think he will, and I'm definitely going to bring that up, and I'm also going to bring him one of these because I'm going to have these with me anyway, and I think I'm gonna give him some tea, and I'm gonna give him the Freddy candle too, the marshmallow scent. If he doesn't like tea or he doesn't really care for candles, I bet his wife does.
Oh
So
yeah.
he could always share
And
them
I'm
with
sure
his
he will
wife.
appreciate it.
That I don't know. I was just reminded of this though, but there was about a year or two ago, um, when I was still fooling around on Twitter.
Mhm.
Robert England, I always follow him on all like social media platforms. But I at one point had Robert England's phone number because,
Oh my
and,
gosh!
I'm sure
I remember that.
I'm sure he's changed it after the fact that this happened, but there was a photo that he posted on his Twitter of him and his dog,
Yeah.
and his dog had a collar on with a little
Caller, yeah, I remember that.
like a little thing hanging down that had the dog's name and Robert Englund's phone number.
I bet there were people calling him up.
Oh,
Oh,
I'm
I
sure
bet
there
that's probably how
was.
he found out that he had made a mistake and put that on there. He probably started
Yeah.
getting a bunch of phone calls.
I guarantee it. Yeah.
His wife probably said, "Robert, why'd you do that?" There's people calling him all
I
He
always
was
thought
like,
it
I
was
think probably
cool.
just started getting all these phone calls. He's like, "What's going on?"
I always thought it was
But
cool that his wife's name is Nancy.
Yeah,
Much
yeah,
like how Heather Langham's character's name is Nancy.
yeah, yeah. He was married once before,
Mhm.
and he talks about that in that Hollywood Dreams and
Mhm.
Nightmares, and said that they just got married too young, him and his first wife, and it just didn't work out. They didn't hate each other or anything, but the marriage just didn't work out.
Now he doesn't have children, does he?
Mm-mm,
I didn't think so.
no. I don't think they. I mean, he obviously likes children, but I do remember his wife Nancy talking about they like to travel a lot.
Yeah,
She said it's a good thing that they never had kids because it makes
yeah.
it easier to travel.
And I'm the type of person, I find that interesting when I find out that like actors and celebrities like that, they have like previous marriages and especially when those previous marriages are linked to other celebrities. Like in the past, like year or so ago, I never knew that PJ Souls and Dennis Quaid were once married.
Huh? I didn't
Yeah,
know that either.
yep.
I knew they dated, but I did not know that they ever got
Huh?
married. So that's
I think they were married very briefly, if I'm not
I didn't
mistaken.
even know
Now,
they dated.
but yeah, they were 100% together.
Huh?
But it seems like they were married for like a year or maybe a couple of years. And there's photos that she was actually with him at the time when they did Halloween, the
yeah.
original Halloween.
I think Dennis Quaid was going to play her boyfriend
Yeah, that's right.
in Halloween.
Well,
Um,
I'll tell you, I used to have the biggest crush on Dennis Quaid.
Dennis Quaid, not bad, especially in his younger days, wasn't a bad looking guy.
Oh, whenever he's on Great Balls of Fire, he's. Whew. I remember because I love Jerry Lee Lewis, and I remember finding out that because I was real little, I was so disappointed when I found out that Jerry Lee Lewis did not look like Dennis Quaid.
You're right.
I
I
was
bet you were.
disappointed. I was
I love that
disappointed.
movie too. Candace is the one that introduced me to the Great Balls of Fire with Dennis
Oh,
Quaid.
really?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I love it. It's so. I mean, it's very exaggerated as far as the
Oh yeah.
story of Jerry Lee Lewis, but it's so
Well, I
awesome.
tell you, Candace, though, if you want to keep your the good Dennis Quaid in your mind, don't ever watch Are You in the House Alone? Because he's not a very nice guy.
Is that a new movie where he's like a
No,
tenant,
that was
or he's like a
nine,
former tenant?
19, what was it, 78 or so?
Oh, it's an older movie. Okay.
Yeah. Kathleen Beller's in it as well.
Mm.
Um, and
That,
it's a good movie. It's based on a
mhm.
book by Richard Peck. If
Oh,
anybody's
okay.
ever read some of
And,
Richard
and
Peck's novels.
I don't want to get off track too much, but there is a movie that Dennis Quaid is in that I absolutely love. It's not really a horror film. It's more like I guess a thriller suspense. It's called Cold Creek Manor, and
That's what
I,
I'm thinking of.
I absolutely
That's
love
what I
that
was
movie.
thinking of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
He's like
great.
a former tenant of that house, right?
Well, no, that
Or something
it's
like
he
that.
he buys this house, and the former tenant, which is can't think of the guy's name. He was a little kid in The Gate, and he's in like the Blade movie.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the house like belonged to them, but Dennis Quaid and his family buys the house, and then
Yeah.
he starts discovering stuff on the property. Like he finds like these retainers still got teeth in it, and like
Yes,
you realize
yes.
there's like something's going on there. And but yeah, I don't want to give too much away about that film
Yep.
because if you've never seen it, please check that
I've
movie
only
out.
watched it once. I think me and you watched it together, Chris, and that's the
Hmm.
movie I was talking about.
Okay.
Um, and I was thinking, I know he's in a movie where he like is in a house somewhere where something's going on. My memory, like I said, right now, that's why I just forget so much, guys. You're gonna have to overlook me if I come on here and I get
Okay.
scatterbrained because I've got so much
Uh,
on me right now that
I
I just
thought we lost
my you can
Candace
ask
for a
Dana.
second.
I forget the simplest of things.
Stephen Dorff. Thank you, Batman. There. That's the I was trying to think
And
of.
TJ's in here too, and TJ and Batman, they all have knowledge. TJ says, I think he's talking about Dennis Quaid. He says
PJ Souls is
78
yeah.
to 83, her second husband. So,
Am I back on, guys?
yeah.
Did you lose me?
Well, you kind of froze for a little bit, and I thought,
Yeah,
oh, please
I'm
can't.
in an area where that's not very good at with signal. So, and I've been losing you guys too. So, if I act weird, that's probably the reason why I can't hear you guys. But I'll probably get off of here after we get done talking about um the
Paper
paper
Brigade.
brigade because I don't want to keep on freezing up or nothing.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and give our rating on Paper Brigade. Oops, if I can get it on the right thing. I'm going to give this one a 5 deadites out of 5 because, I will definitely be going back and watching this many, many times. And if if you guys give me a copy, I'll be like, yeah, I got my own copy of Paper Brigade. With Robert Englund. Is he on the cover of it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I figured they would do
Yeah,
that.
and when you watch this movie, the title says Gunther and the Paper
Gunther and the
Brigade,
paper
but
brigade. Yeah.
all of the releases, the VHS, the DVD, is just the Paper Brigade.
All right. So, Chris, what rating do you give the Paper Brigade?
I mean, I love the film, I love it, but and I don't want to nostalgia to kind of like come too much in play into this, but I'll probably give it a 4. Just I think I would have to just because even though it is cheesy and there's a lot of stuff in it that I wouldn't typically watch a movie like that nowadays if something like that came out. I have to go based on like how much I loved it as a kid growing up,
Right.
and that's what I'm basing my ranking off of.
Okay. That's all fair. So, Candace, what do you give it?
I would give it a 4 as well. Only because the way I use my ranking, the way I usually score stuff is 5 is like my favorite, like the greatest movies ever. I think.
I
Which
think
this one,
y'all's are a little more defined. Your number 5 are a little more defined than mine are.
yeah, and a 4 would fall into a movie that I love. It's one that I would watch over and over again. It's one I would suggest to other people and want to show my nephews and my son and all that good stuff. So it would fall into a 4 because I would definitely watch it over and over again. I have watched it over and over again. It's a wonderful movie, and it's not a kids movie. It's for whoever wants to see it. It's just one of those fun movies.
Yeah.
If you love Robert Englund, you're going to love him in this because I think it's a hilarious film.
Yeah, it's definitely
So yeah,
targeted
good
towards
solid 4.
kids, but like Hannah said, anybody could sit and watch this, and I
Anybody,
think enjoy it.
yes.
Like
I mean, it's a
Dana
great
said,
film.
this was her first time watching this, and she liked
Mm.
it. So I mean, that shows you that it's not just going to be appreciated by kids.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
exactly. Or even people, you could definitely sit down and watch this as a family. You're not going to
yes.
have to worry about anything that you're going to have to explain to a young child or anything
Hmm.
like that, unless you want to have a discussion about bullies or something like that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
But even the bullies, they were mean. But
yeah.
I have seen some bullies in movies that are
Oh
just
yeah,
downright dangerous. And
yeah.
so it was kind of refreshing to watch a movie where you had bullies in there and they had to defeat the bullies, but the bullies weren't like trying to kill them almost. You know, haven't y'all seen those movies with bullies?
Right. They're
Yeah.
like they're mean, but they're not. They don't really come off because it's seriously dangerous. It's more of
Yeah.
a comical edge to it. Like, have you ever seen
Mhm.
that kids movie from the early '90s, Dana, called Three Ninjas?
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
like the villains in that are like bullies slash villains. What they're like the surfer guys,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they're mean, but they're dumb, and they're like it's comical, you know.
Well, who I thought of was like the bullies in the '90s Little Rascal film. In
Yeah,
the '90s Little Rascal film, yeah. You know how they're like, I think one of them name's Swime and the other one's name is, I forget what the other one's
Boyle.
name is. But who?
Is it Boyle?
Probably, I
Something
can't
like that.
remember.
They had really weird names. I haven't seen Little
Yeah,
Rascals in a very long
but you
time.
know they're mean, but they're like goofy, and you know it's kind of like they were in the Power Rangers. You know the bullies in the Power Ranger
Oh, Bulk and
show.
Skull.
Yeah, you know, it kind of gives that comical relief to it. Like they're bullies, but they, you know, the joke is on them the whole
Yeah,
time.
but you
You
can't.
know.
Yeah, they're not ones to be taken seriously.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely. Yeah, but great film. If you've not seen it, highly
Yeah.
recommend it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I highly recommend it too.
and one other thing I wanted to say about it is, and I'm not going to give the ending away to anybody that's not seen it, but and I every time I watch this, even I watched this recently, the ending to this gets me very emotional.
Yeah.
Because it's a very touching like ending between the main character Gunther and an older lady, the
Yeah.
character in this film. So I don't want to say what happens exactly, but I love how that ends.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
Dana, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Candace.
But I guess I'm going to skedaddle on out of here and
All right.
uh, go before it gets so dark you can't see me and the stuff gets so bad that I can't even talk.
Yeah, you
Because
you can't be stealing your brother's gimmick.
he came on our podcast, he was in the car and as it kept on getting darker and darker and all you could see is his nose whenever he was like whenever he was in the on that podcast that we did. But I'm gonna go ahead and skedaddle on out of here, Dana. Thank
Well,
you for letting me do a drive by.
well,
I'm
yeah,
pulling the Uncle
Candace,
Bill on
anytime.
here.
That's okay. No, I think you were on here longer than Uncle Bill's on here sometimes, but I appreciate you coming on and talking about Paper Brigade with us, and
Yeah.
you're welcome back anytime. And
Thank you. I'll try to be on here a little bit more. It's just been real hard here
right,
recently to be able to be home and able to do it. I'd rather be at home and do it on the computer and stuff anyway. But I'm gonna hop back on in the chat. I'll be watching inside on the TV. So you
all
guys
right,
have a good rest of your stream, and I'll see you guys in a little bit.
See you,
all right,
Ken.
all right. So now there is a bug flying around here. Y'all may be able to see it on the camera. It's driving me nuts. I don't know what it is, if it's a fly or what kind of bug it is. But I wish it would vacate the area of my computer desk. But
I gotta say this comment that TJ made. He said, "I thought Candace's brother was with witness protection." I gotta tell him that. That's hilarious.
oh man, yeah. TJ says like Karate Kid, where the bullies are trying to cripple people. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Sometimes the bullies are just very sadistic.
Which
Uh,
is it's really cool, like with Karate Kid though, because Johnny and Cobra Kai are seen as the villains in that. But if you watch the TV show Cobra Kai,
mm-hmm.
it's kind of reversed. At least in the beginning, it's reversed. But and again, if you've not seen Cobra Kai, I don't want to give too much that way. But that's currently like one of my current favorite shows. Right
Right.
now. I'm sad to see that it's ending.
Yeah, I've seen a few, not all the episodes, but I've seen a few because Steve likes to watch it. And
Yeah.
sometimes he's already went in the bedroom. We know Steve's sleep habits, don't we? Everybody here knows Steve's sleep habits. So he goes to lay down in the bed so early, and he'll go in there and watch stuff, and I'm not ready to lay down yet, and so I miss out on some stuff. But but oh, this brings us to, oh my goodness, yeah. I don't think I needed to see this this all of this movie to get the gist of what I thought of it. This was, I believe, a direct to video film, Star Quest 2, which is probably why a lot of people may not have heard of it. Um, so there's a nuclear war. This is the plot synopsis for it. There's a nuclear war, and four warriors from Earth awaken on a spaceship. It sounds like a good idea. Unable to determine what purpose they are there for, and above all, who rescued them, panic breaks out. The young scientist Lee and his attractive colleague Susan face the killer aliens in a bitter struggle for the survival of mankind. Now, I gotta ask you, Chris, does that plot synopsis sound pretty good? You know, you got killer aliens, you got people that end up in a place they don't know how they got there,
Well,
and
it would interest me for sure because I mean, growing up in the early '90s, when I was going to the video store, that's all I had to go off was these synopsises. I didn't, I just had to look at a tape, and the cover looked cool to me. Saw the three pictures on the back of the tape. It's like, oh, okay, well, that's interesting to go, and then just read what it's about. I'm like, just have to take a chance on it. So,
and
but yeah,
sometimes we got good ones, and sometimes we got some stinkers in there.
But yeah, I would. I mean, based off of that, I would be like, absolutely, I would rent that and watch that in a heartbeat. But no, I've never seen this one. But I mean, I'll probably eventually watch it. I mean,
I would like to see the ending just,
mhm.
to get a full, uh, I guess the whole thing. I want the whole enchilada or whatever people say. I want to, I kind of wanted to know what happened. Did the people get off the ship? Did the killer aliens wipe everybody out? The aliens did look pretty cool on here. I will say that. And Robert Englund appears to play a priest. When you first see him, he's got his priest robe on, and he looks like kind Robert Englund and stuff. And so he acts like at first that he just materialized on this ship just like some of these other people did. But then as the movie goes along, you find out that he's in cahoots with the aliens and wants to kill the humans. And so the big thing, and I don't want anybody to think I'm a prude. A sex scene or two in a movie, I don't have a problem with. But every time you turn around, there was this stripper that ended up on the ship, and like you would either see her taking her clothes off, or you'd see two of these people, not Robert Englund, of course, but you would see the other people pairing off and having sex, and it showed quite a bit of nudity. Every
And
time you looked, somebody would be having sex on this.
does this movie take like completely up in space, or is it?
Yeah, I mean, it appears that it's space because you see the outside of the ship and you see what looks to be like the skies in space or whatever you want to call it, and it but as it went on, and you know what else it seemed like? It seemed like, I mean, it was very cheaply made. Direct to video stuff usually is. But it seemed almost like they had taken a video game and tried to make a movie out of it. And we know sometimes that's good, sometimes it's bad.
That's ironic though that you say that because this came out in '97, and there is a game. There was a PC game that I remember when I was a teenager called Star Quest.
I thought
Um,
that name sounded familiar.
and I'm trying to see when that came out. Because okay. I'm not sure. It says it was developed in 1995. And this movie came out in '97. But from what you're describing to me, this has nothing to do with the video game, though. But there was also a sequel to that video game called Star Quest 2, same title as this. But I'm reading upon this, and it says, this is the second one was called Star. This is a sequel to a film called Star Quest, but the original name for the first film was called Terminal Voyage.
I think this one had another name, and I'm forgetting what the name of it was.
I'm always interested in that too. That when they have alternate titles like that.
It's listed as a sci-fi thriller, and you know what? What was funny? I had never seen this before on a movie, direct to video or otherwise. But when it first came on, it had a little, I guess, disclaimer at the beginning of it. It said medium sex scenes or something like that. I was like, what?
I've never seen anything
Or
like that
medium
before.
sexual activity. I don't know. It was something like that.
And so I'm assuming this is rated R, correct?
Yes, for violence, sexuality, and language.
Yeah, I had actually never heard of it until today. So
now Adam Baldwin, who played the character of Lee in this, he
Mhm.
is quoted as saying, "This is the worst movie ever made."
Yeah, and he's if you might know him from like Full Metal Jacket. He was in another sci-fi based series called Firefly, which it got canceled. I think it was just one season, and then they did like a movie to it called Serenity.
Right.
But I think he was also in an episode, or maybe a couple episodes of the X-Files. Seems like he was one of the guys in the FBI agent that worked with Mulder on a few episodes, but I could be wrong about that.
There's also more trivia. It said the footage in the alien video at the beginning showing a man with his brain exposed. That looked pretty cool. And the close-up of a needle being pushed into a brain were borrowed from the film Brain Dead that came out in 1990. But, like I said, the aliens looked pretty cool in it, and Robert Englund was in it, and that's about the best two things I can say about this movie. One person on IMDb gave it a 2 instead of a 1, only because I got to see a lot of Adam Baldwin, and I do mean a lot, as well as Robert Englund.
I'm trying to look at. Oh, okay. So I've just now seen a picture of one of the aliens, and that really looks a lot like the I can't think of the main or not the main character, but one of the characters' names in The Last Starfighter. What is he called? But that's that same, and he also looks like oh my goodness, I just had a brain fart. But he looks like one of these. It's like this lizard creature from. Oh no! I know what it is now. It's from the Goombas from the Super Mario Brothers movie from the early '90s.
Oh, okay. Maybe they stole that.
I don't know. I mean, there's a bit of a difference there, but I always do like that because you can tell it's a mask.
Yeah.
And they've just added some, I guess, like paint and some other effects to it. But I mean, I don't care if the movie is crappy. And compared to a newer movie that would be considered like a huge box office movie but they just use CGI, I'm
Yeah,
gonna pick practical effects.
exactly.
If it's a crappy movie with practical effects, I'm still gonna choose it every time.
Hmm. So hey, Dirk's in here tonight. Um, and Batman, I'm sorry if I missed you. He said at 9:13. He said I'm going to peace out and catch the replay. But in case you do watch this on the replay, I'll tell you I'm glad that you stopped in and hung out with us for a little while. Um, but again, there's really no. I mean, Adam Baldwin and Robert Englund. That's probably the two, and the look of the aliens. I'll give it 3 reasons why you might want to watch this movie. But other than that, it's like I'm not, again, I'm not interested. I'm not putting any guys down that like to look at naked ladies. I understand it's just natural, but every every few minutes to have a sex scene in this, that tells you something. That tells you that this movie did not have enough meat on it, that they thought that they could keep people interested without throwing in, oh well, nothing's happened for a while. Let's throw another sex scene in. That'll keep people. Or
That does bring up something interesting that I thought of though, Dana. I know you've talked about South Park before. You're a fan of South Park, right?
I like South Park. I get some
Um,
enjoyment out of it.
so have you seen the movie that the creators Trey Parker and Matt Stone made called Orgasmo?
Um, I think I've seen clips of it. I don't think
Because
I've seen it
I don't
all.
think that movie would be up your alley, but I think it's pretty hilarious.
Well, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with somebody finding stuff humorous. But this stuff wasn't meant to be humorous. It was literally, I think, trying to titillate the audience by here's a sex scene. Okay. 10 minutes went by. Here's another sex scene. 5 minutes go by. Here's another sex scene.
Well, maybe that's why they put that disclaimer at the beginning.
I guess. But I'd never seen it put or worded just in that way.
Yeah, I've never seen that ever. I don't think as far as like they're like a disclaimer right before the film. I've no, I've never seen that. Like there will be sex scenes in this film, or you say what did you say it said like medium
It's
sex
something
scene?
about medium. It's like, what is this, a heat level, or what are they talking about here?
That's so strange.
Mm. Um, let's see. Candace says CJ's been watching Dana, but he's leaving for work. He told me to tell you that he's repping Robert England today. He's got a Nightmare on Elm Street 2 shirt on and a Freddy flannel on. I give that the thumbs up, Candace. Um, TJ, yes, indeed, sex does sell, even in cheesy horror sci-fi movies. It does. Turk says, "Oh hell yeah, you piqued my interest." He says it's sexploitation. I don't know if I'd go all the way into the realm of saying that
Nah,
it's
this ain't like Double D Avenger or nothing, Dirk. So.
exploitation. Or like those old Russ Meyer
Yeah,
flicks.
that's what I think. Because Russ Meyer, I think
Did he
did
do Double D
Double D
Avenger? That
Avenger
sounds like
and
what he would do.
what Faster Pussycat Kill Kill and stuff like that.
Didn't he do one with Vixens in the title or something like
Yeah, yeah. Because I actually I had that big box Russ Meyer box set. It was James's, and I was looking at it. I was like, I was like, because I had a couple of them already, and like I was like, most of these films, I was like, I don't really care about this stuff. So like, and then I was going to try to get rid of it, and then I did not realize how valuable that thing was, and because I ended up selling that for like a little over $300.
wow. Yeah, there's a market for Russ Meyer movies
Yeah,
there.
there is at least one box set.
But okay, so let me just I could dance around it. but I won't. Um, I'm going to give this my lowest rating. I'm going to give it 1 deadite out of 5.
Dang, worse than Killer Tongue.
Yeah, it was worse than Killer Tongue in my
Wow.
opinion.
Wow.
But I would have to give that one, for me anyway, for the look of the aliens and for Robert Englund. The
Yeah,
rest of it,
from that those images that I seen, I mean, like, and then I just seen Dirk's comment up here. He said "Enemy Mine." Yeah, that's another one. They look like the creatures from Enemy Mine. But I mean, that's cool. I mean, that to me kind of intrigues me to watch it just based off, those creatures. I mean,
yeah.
those look just from this image that I'm looking at. That looks a lot more interesting than anything that was in Killer Tongue to me.
No, I'm not telling anybody not to go watch it. And Dirk will probably go seek it out. But be careful, Dirk. If you go looking for a download of it, Steve downloaded it for me, bless his heart, but it was missing about 12 minutes. So I didn't even get to see the end. I was like, I sat through this dang thing and I didn't get to see the end of it. No, Robert England didn't even save that one, did he, Candace? And she says, dang, I've never seen Dana give one deadite. I may have, but I can't remember what I gave it to this one. But it may have been that one movie, one Robert Englund movie where he wasn't. They talked about him. They talked about his character of Michael. I think it was something called Sunburst or something like that. Um, and I either gave that a 1 or a 2. And I said, whatever I gave it, the rating was for Robert England's performance. It wasn't for anything else.
So earlier you said, Dana, that this had a different title to it. I just found it actually has 2 different ones from what I'm seeing. It's also known as Galactic Odyssey, and another title for it is Mind Breakers.
Yeah, Mind Breakers. That was what was on the title of the one that Steve downloaded.
Oh, okay.
That didn't have the whole movie on there. I think it's about an hour and 32 minutes.
Yeah, I was trying to actually look for it too to see, and I can't even find it anywhere.
Yeah, Steve found it somewhere to download, but I went in there right before I come on here. And
It says that the first film, the first Star Quest, is on Tubi though.
Oh, but I don't think that one has Robert Englund on it.
No, that one I don't know of anybody from that. Well, Stephen Bauer is probably the only name I recognize from that one.
But I just want to remind everybody of the movies that I'm planning on covering next week. Of course, it'll be on the schedule. I've got that handy new schedule, video schedule that you can take a look at. And at any point in time, you can let that play and you can see what I'm covering for the week. Dirk says, did y'all hear about Rob Z supposed to be doing Fred?
You talking about Freddy Krueger and Nightmare on Elm Street? Because I seen that and that's fake as hell.
I'm glad it's fake. That's all.
Yeah. Well, the thing I seen, at least, like there was like a poster someone posted on Facebook of it, and I think it had like DJ Qualls. I don't know if you know who that is or not, Dana, but he was in a movie called Road Trip with Tom Green, and he was in The New Guy, and he has like a recurring character on the show Supernatural, and he's in a bunch of other stuff too. But it had him as playing Freddy Krueger, and I'm like, no, that's fake as shit right there.
I kind of like the Kevin Bacon angle that's been floating around.
Well, that's something that Robert Englund has actually said himself, that he would like to have Kevin Bacon play the role of Freddy Krueger.
Because Robert Englund's been saying for a while now he's through playing Freddy Krueger. He's not going to play anymore. And so I would like to see what Kevin Bacon could do with it.
It would be interesting. I think Kevin Bacon is starting to kind of dabble more into the horror genre again. The last one I watched, it was a movie called They/Them.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
I didn't really care for that one that
Mhm.
much, though. I mean, I thought he did a good job as his role in the film, but overall, it's not one I would recommend to too many people. I'm sure there's like there's an audience, a target audience for it somewhere, but apparently I wasn't that target audience.
Stir of Echoes is a really good film with Kevin Bacon in it and
That's
Aliana Douglas.
yeah.
Yeah, that one's
The
fantastic.
the sequel to that, not so
I
much.
haven't seen the sequel, but it sounds like I could do without seeing it. Um, but I will be hopefully next week, next Tuesday, I'll be covering Perfect Target from 1997, Wishmaster from 1997. That's going to have a whole boatload of recognizable names and faces in it.
Hmm.
And Meet the Deedles, which I've never seen.
Wow, I've not seen that in a long time.
And then after the week after that, Urban Legend, which I'm
Hmm.
really looking forward to watching that one again. Strange Land and The Prince and the Surfer. And Robert Englund used to be a surfer. He was a
I love Urban Legend. That's
me
one
too.
I would like to talk about that one because I think that's one of those horror films in the '90s that were like kind of focused around teens to college students,
Yeah.
and there was a lot of that, in the '90s. That's something that you could do a whole show on, like you Scream, and I Know What You Did Last Summer, and Urban Legend, and The Faculty, and Idle Hands, all kinds of stuff like that, released in the '90s. What's that one? eh, I think I want to say it's the one where they're like this guy, his brother died, and so they moved to this new town. He goes to this school, and there's like a whole group. They're kind of like all they're like prep guy, like jock guys, and then there's like a part in the film where they are like kind of bullying this guy. Like he's like a greaser type guy. He like works on cars and stuff. And then
Mhm.
like the next day, he's like one of them. So they're like doing some kind of like
You're
manipulation.
not talking about Sometimes They Come Back, are you?
No, it's not that one. No, that because that's like these are the because they're like ghosts or whatever, and sometimes they come back. But these are like these teenagers are alive,
Mhm.
but like something's and William Sadler is in it. He plays like the janitor of the school,
Well,
and
that's funny because William Sadler was also in. No, no, it wasn't William Sadler that was in that. Never mind. My brain's going.
let me see because that's going to bother me if I can't think. But I watched that movie probably a couple of years ago on Tubi, I think.
Hmm.
And that's why I always like to bring that one up when I'm talking about like these '90s disturbing behavior is what it's called.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's got what's her name that was in Dawson's Creek? Katie Holmes, is that her name? Yeah, Katie Holmes is in it as well, and James Marsden and Nick Stahl. Ethan Embry has like a cameo in it, but it's really good. I love that one.
Um, Candace, she loves Stir of Echoes. Hey, John. John says, "Hey, y'all. Strange Land is very memorable." Dirk wants to know when is Zombie Strippers gonna be. I don't know yet, Dirk.
Now,
I'm
Zombie
still.
Strip, is that the one that's got Jenna Jameson in it, or is that something different?
Let me actually look at my schedule. Maybe Jenna Jameson is that in that. Let me. I can probably tell you about what week this will be, Dirk. Let me see.
I seen Dirk made a comment though when we were talking about the whole like Kevin Bacon playing Freddy Krueger. He also mentioned Gary Oldman. I would
Yeah,
love that as well because
that was.
Gary Oldman's one of my favorite actors of all time, and I always call him like the modern day Lon Chaney because where he's played so many different roles and makeup as well, and Like when he was that guy that was attacked by Hannibal Lecter in Hannibal, and he's like, he's like a pretty much a vegetable sitting there, and it took me forever to even realize that was Gary Oldman. And but he's like one of those guys. He's like the new man of 1,000 faces almost. And that's a really cool idea, Derek. I like that.
Dirk, I actually looked at my schedule and we're about week 17, and I'll be covering zombie strippers probably around week 25. So we got a few more weeks before I get to zombie strippers. But I will be covering it.
Yeah, I just looked it up too, and that is the one I was thinking that has Jenna Jameson, but I've never seen that. I just always remember the title and seeing her on the cover. And I don't know, like I think they got out of hand there for a while with all these zombie films that they were making during that time.
Yeah, they wanted to put, I mean, there was, and they still may show up from time to time, but there was even like zombies in commercials and car commercials and stuff like that. And I was like, I've said this before and I will keep saying it. I like zombies when zombies was on the fringes, when it was kind of weird to like zombies. Now they're part of popular culture.
Well, and a lot of that has to do with Walking Dead. But it's funny though, because that movie, I see it came out in 2008. That was before Walking Dead, but it started as a TV series. I mean, the comic book was around at the time, but really you didn't start seeing a ton of like zombie stuff until after the Walking Dead series had all this fame to it. But also at the same time, like before the show came out, like this movie Zombie Strippers, and there was other like zombie related films coming out that time, but they were all like direct to video stuff. But like, because what was that one? It was like a Day of the Dead remake, or like a Day of the Dead 2. It's like a Sci-Fi Channel movie or something.
Was it like Contagion? Didn't it have?
Yes, and like they all kinds of stuff like that was. I think they did one like a Night of Living Dead 3D with Sid Haig, and there was just all these different like zombie films coming out around that time. They had what was that? They do like a Return of the Living Dead, like called Necropolis or something. It was like a Sci-Fi Channel movie,
I think
and a Rave to the Grave, and just a bunch of stupid stuff. I mean, like they were coming out with a lot of crap, and I mean crap back then.
Candace says she went to the movies and watched Urban Legend 3 times when it came out. So Candace really likes that movie. I'll need to have both of y'all on here when I do Urban Legend if we can.
Yeah, oh my gosh, I love it so much, Dana.
John says, I agree on Kevin Bacon doing good as Freddy. My only fear is that he's 65, so that's hard when you're older to do that stuff. And that's probably a big part of why Robert Englund's not wanting to do it.
Well, you know what they'll probably do, though? They'll probably just get some unknown actor to play the body of Robert Englund or Freddy Krueger, and they'll do like this deep fake thing with like Robert Englund's face. I mean, that's what one of the trends is to do nowadays. With a lot of, I know Disney likes to do it a lot with the new Star Wars films and shows and stuff. I don't know if you've ever watched Mandalorian, but they have like Mark Hamill's face like deep faked on an actor, and I mean, sometimes it looks good, sometimes it don't. It just depends on, I guess, who's doing the effects. But if you're going to do that with Freddy Krueger, think again. Don't do that.
Yeah, please don't do that. John says he can't wait for 2001 Maniacs. Yeah, I'll be covering that one as well. Blissful says Stir of Echoes is one of her favorite movies. Candace says, I'm a fan of Strangeland. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I found it interesting. Dirk says he can play anything, no doubt. TJ said this should be over in about 2 more years. My retrospective on Robert Englund, I don't know. I think I've went through the bulk of these movies, the ones that I could find. there were a few that I just could not find to watch.
I think it would be a lot faster to do a Robert Englund retrospective than it would be a Roger Corman.
Oh Lord, yeah.
Can you imagine trying to do a retrospective of all of Roger Corman's films? That really probably would take you 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Or more.
Or more, yeah, possibly.
Dirk says, "Oh, that's going to be an interesting review." Yeah, you're going to be here for that, right, Dirk? Um, Ben says, "Hey, Ben, by the way," he said, "this is a deep dive episode." A little bit, yeah. Candace says, "Gary Oldman is a chameleon. He's amazing and cute as hell in Bram Stoker's Dracula. Cute, long-haired, sultry Gary, not shriveled up, pale titty head Gary."
I'm sure this is not a horror film, but one of my favorite films that Gary Oldman's in is called Leon the Professional.
Oh, Steve
And,
has that.
and I know there's a huge fan base behind it, and I didn't see that till I was probably in high school about 20 some years ago. But to this day, it's one of my favorite Gary Oldman films.
And Dirk brings up a great movie, and he's right. Serpent and the Rainbow never gets mentioned. He says that's one of his favorites. I really dig the voodoo zombies the most. Yeah, Serpent and the Rainbow is a really, really good film. Wes Craven did it. Yeah, I love Serpent and the Rainbow. I think I've actually got the 4K of that. I need to go back and watch it. If it's not the 4K, it's the Blu-ray. Sometimes I get confused. Ben says, "I think Walton Goggins would make a great Freddy."
Oh, I agree. I never thought about that, but yeah, I think he would. He's in that new Fallout series on Amazon, which I don't know if have you watched any of that yet, Dana?
Steve's been watching it, and I've saw bits and pieces of it, but never really sat
Yeah,
down.
I had to start watching. I'm not finished. I'm maybe like 2 episodes in right now, but I had to because the Fallout game series is probably my second favorite game series of all time. I mean, I love that post-apocalyptic stuff, and
Right.
we're like, and all the music in it is like old-timey music from like
Yeah,
between
I
the
did
30s and
notice that.
50s, and
Mhm.
that's just like how the games are too, and I always love that.
So I guess we can stay on here a couple more minutes if Chris is
Yeah, I'm
willing
free
to
as long
stay
as you
on.
need me, Dana.
Uh, well, I'm so glad I have both you and Candace and TJ when he comes on and stuff like that, because I would be I would be the boringest person ever if I did all these streams by myself. So I'm
Oh, that's not true now, Dana. You don't give yourself enough credit. You did that stream last night by yourself, and it was awesome.
Well, thank you, Chris. I think you and Candace are biased though because we're such good friends.
Now, give me that crap, Dana.
Y'all wouldn't want to say anything bad about me and hurt my feelings. TJ says, "Anyone ever read the Dead World Zombie comic series from the 80s? Kind of suspiciously close to The Walking Dead." I've never read that, TJ.
I haven't either, but I'm interested now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna look into that after this.
See, that's what comes out of having all of us together just talking in here. People discover new things that they want to check out.
And something else new that me and Candace both checked out last night, actually, is one of the films that you're covering on Seductive Poison, Blowout.
Yeah, Candace says she really loved it.
Oh my God, I love that movie. So out of the 3 that you're covering on Seductive Poison, and I loved Bloody Birthday and Bloody Moon. I really loved Bloody Birthday, but out of these 3, Blowout is probably the best film out of the 3.
Blowout will blow you away when you
Yes,
watch it.
I mean, absolutely, it is, and it's probably one of my top favorite Brian De Palma films now. And I was like, man, why have I waited so long? Because I absolutely loved it. I love how everything was shot and how like they sync up scenes together to like to make sure you're paying attention to everything that's going on, because that's a film. Blowout is a film you have to watch every little detail of that
It's
movie.
very multi-layered. Let's see. TJ, you say, Dana, didn't you say before you didn't think Nancy Allen was that good in Blowout? I think that was the movie that I thought she was a little spacey, but she might have been supposed to be like
But
that.
I mean, that's what I was going to say. She's definitely playing that character because of because she's pretty much an escort. If you or just someone hired to do sexual favors.
Yeah.
And I just think she played into that very well, because if you look at like a lot of other films that have prostitutes and stuff or like Frankenhooker, even like Patty Mullins, Frankenhooker, she kind of talks like that, like a very bimbo-ish type voice to them, because I don't know, I thought she did an excellent job in Blowout.
I think when I said that, I think people were talking about how bad she was in Dress to Kill. And I think she's really good in Dress to Kill.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's anything.
I thought Nancy Allen's great in anything she's in. I mean, I love her in Carrie, and that's really cool too, because Brian De Palma did Carrie as well, and her and John Travolta had like a relationship in Carrie, much like they did in Blowout. I mean, different characters, different character styles though, but and I thought she worked really good in RoboCop as well. I love her in that.
Yeah.
I thought she was a fantastic actress.
Dirk says, got you on Facebook now, Crater. Sorry, just been busier than a cat covering shit. I love that quote.
Damn, I ain't never heard of that one before.
Candace says, Blowout was amazing. Dirk says, no, I haven't, TJ. Sounds interesting, though. I do remember Dead Man used to love that comic. John says, Blowout is pretty much Hitchcock if he kept going. And he says it's awesome. Candace agrees with John. Dirk says, Hitch is probably the most influential director of all thriller and horror. I would agree with that.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that, because I'm pretty sure like he was one of Carpenter's main inspirations. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, but it seems like I remember watching an interview with John Carpenter one time, and the reason he really got into making films was because of Alfred Hitchcock.
But I have loved this once again, and we've still got 11 people in here right now. But I want to thank both Chris and Candace for being on here with me tonight. I had a really great time discussing these movies, and even StarQuest too. I had a good time with you guys.
You got me intrigued now, Dana. I may have to go watch this.
If you can find it to watch, you let me know what.
Because I mean, if you're giving that a 1 deadite ranking, and it's worse than what you gave Killer Tongue, then I don't know. I have to see this to see if it see what it's like.
Thank you, Blissful. Blissful says, great live, guys. And Candace says, thanks for having me, Dana. This was an awesome live. Well, thank you, Candace. And as I always say, you and Chris and, TJ and John hadn't been on with me for a while, and Dirk, all of you guys have an open invitation to come on anytime that you want. Dirk says, cool vibes, y'all. Well, thank you. And yes, TJ, join us tomorrow for the final Creep Show series episodes for now, until they get the 5th season out.
Speaking of that, if you all don't have the Creep Show series on any kind of physical media yet, I know that Amazon is having a sale right now on, I think, seasons 3 and 4. So hopefully I think they were like $12.99 or something for the Blu-ray. That's pretty. That's pretty good.
And Candace, yes, help the Evil Dead chick out, and hit the thumbs up. It doesn't cost you anything. Takes a half a second of your life to do.
Exactly.
As does subscribing. So if you like the content I'm putting out and you want to, keep coming back to see what else I'm doing, please like and subscribe. Tell your friends and family members who might be interested in this content. Hey, I found this channel, Deadites on Deck. There's this girl, Evil Dead chick, and she talks about horror movies. And
you gotta promote your website too, Dana.
yeah, the shop, the deaditesondeck.com, and for anybody that hasn't seen it, I feel like 500,000 times I put it on here.
Yeah, Dana's got all kinds of awesome stuff on her shop. She's got the Booga Booga Bears. She's doing some shirts now for different series she's doing. She's got are you doing the tumblers still, Dana?
I got tumblers, and I can make you a tumbler. Y'all let me know what you want on it. Now, unless I know you, and I'm talking like know you, like met you in person and stuff. I'm not trying to be mean to anybody I haven't like met in person necessarily, but because these are custom made things, I will not start working on the product until I get money. And that's just to protect me.
Yeah.
And I hope everybody understands that.
Well, I think that's pretty much how like Etsy works and stuff too. Like they advertise their product, but they ain't gonna start working on something for you until they get paid, and that's understandable. I mean, because if you do it the other way, there's gonna be a lot of people out there that's gonna try to burn you. And because I've been there, I've been foolish enough to try to go ahead and in the past and send stuff out to people and then not get paid for it first, and then like I never seen payment for it.
Yeah. We would like to trust everybody, but there's just a certain element of the population that you just cannot trust. Thank you, TJ. TJ says, buy Dana's shirts.
Yeah.
Candace says, Dana's a Jill of all trades. And yes, the custom tea blends. I will soon be making, in fact, I didn't intend to be on here this long, but y'all get me going. I'll talk all night about stuff. But I'm going to be making some custom tea blends. Candace helped me come up with the name. I don't know why I didn't think of it myself. She said you should call them Terror Time Teas, because I do the Terror Time tea stream usually every Friday before me and Candace do the Friday Foolish. And so I came up with some, and we'll see what y'all think of them. England's Elderberry Spice Tea Blend, Leatherface's Lemongrass, Maniac Mint, which you could get in just plain mint or you could get in spearmint, Angela's Honey Bee Sting, which will be a honeysuckle tea, and that's a sleepaway camp inspired tea, because Angela ends up putting some bees on a guy that's sitting on the toilet and he gets stung to death. And Herbert's Folly, which is going to be a chocolate mint tea. And that's Reanimator inspired, Herbert West character. But I've also got some candle scents. I'm going to be having the Freddy's Nightmare Marshmallow candle. Because what would Freddy Krueger's nightmare be? Well, it's exactly what them parents did to him. They roasted him. They roasted him just like a marshmallow. Henrietta's Honeysuckle. That'll be a Evil Dead 2 base candle. Deadite Forest. which will be cedar scented. Evil Dead Cabin, it'll be like a rustic scent. Michael Myers Pumpkin Spice, and Jason's Campfire. So I've got some things rolling around in my head. Cheech and Chong Shroom Tea.
Yeah, I'm all for that one, Dirk. I love me some Cheech and Chong.
Blissful says the chocolate mint tea sounds delicious. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna be drinking some of that myself.
Now I have to. It's kind of off topic, but you said something that reminded me of it. So you said you were doing a sleepaway camp inspired one,
Mm-hmm.
and I know you're a big sleepaway camp fan, just like me. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I've never asked you this before, but what is your favorite kill in sleepaway camp? The original sleepaway
In the
camp.
original sleepaway camp. Okay, let me think here for a second. Probably my favorite one, just because of the way that it's displayed and how long it's on screen and all that, is when the cook gets the boiling water dumped on him.
100%. That's my favorite one. I mean, because personally, I am terrified of getting burnt. Whenever I get burnt, if I'm like cooking or something, like I hate it, and like it just kills me. It'll aggravate me. My OCD will kick in, and I'll just be like, like if I burn my finger or something, I'll just like be like messing with my finger for like hours after that. So to see like that, what happens to the cook at sleepaway camp, that's like the scariest thing to me. That's, I'm not saying it's like the most. It's also pretty gruesome too. I mean, because the effects they did on that guy after with the burns and everything after the fact, I mean, for that time, it's phenomenal.
Well, TJ's going to be a stickler. He says the cook don't die though.
Well, that
I
we
mean,
see, but we don't see him die.
yeah,
But
maybe he
I mean,
dies on the way to the hospital, possibly.
right? Yeah, because that would be tough to survive. I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sicko finally got his. You're right. You're right. Dirk.
Yeah.
I also like when Kenny is killed and the snake comes out of his mouth after he's drowned, and the guy
Oh
finds
yeah,
him and the snake comes crawling out.
And speaking of snakes, there's a scene that we'll talk about that when we get to it in a couple of days. But there's a scene in Bloody Moon involving the snake
Yes,
that
sir.
kind of like took me aback. I was like, "Whoa!" So like, but we'll talk about that later when we get to that.
John says, I'm going to put it out there. You and TJ got to review Ash versus Evil Dead. Oh, it's coming. It's coming, John. I don't think I'll have to, push very hard to get TJ on board with that one. But as usual, I'm either drinking Mountain Dew or an energy drink or something. This gal's got to go to the restroom. So again, I want to thank Candace and Chris for being on here. I want to thank everybody in the chat. I hate to go when we got 12 people, but I've also got to get some rest, take care of the animals, and get things prepared for tomorrow. But I just want to remind everybody to be kind to one another and to blaze that trail. And we'll see everybody next time. So, good night, everybody.
See you guys.